Some breaking news to get into now, and this has just occurred in the last hour or so. The Environment Minister Tanya Plibersek has this afternoon blocked a Clive Palmer coal mine in central Queensland. I'm joined now by Colin Boyce. He's the Nationals member for the founding electorate, not far away, of Flynn. Colin, great to have you with us. What is the reason that the Environment Minister has given for blocking this coal mine?
Well, good evening, Steve. Good to be with you. And I would imagine that comes under her environmental portfolio, and she's given reasons, threats to the Great Barrier Reef, to water sources and so forth. Now, it's not surprising to me one little bit. The Labor Party, both state and federal, are not supporters of the coal industry. We've seen that with their legislation. We've seen the state Labor government impose these huge mining tax royalties on the coal industry. We've seen recently Climate Minister Chris Bowen announce the safety net mechanism, which is basically just carbon tax, which is a huge impost on central Queensland, on the mining and resource sector, and particularly the coal industry.
What sort of dangerous precedent does this set, and what does it say about things like, you know, risk for companies who are going to go and do these explorations? I mean, this must create a hell of a headache for those people.
Well, absolutely. And into the future, I mean, a company's expected to invest in Queensland and Australia and in the mining and resource sector with the current legislation that's been passed in both state of Queensland and here in Canberra. Is it just me, or is this an absolute coincidence that there just happens to be some legislation imminent in respect to the safety net mechanism, and the Labor Party needs the Greens' support in the Senate to get that through? So how about we shut a coal mine proposal? That sounds pretty good, or is that just coincidence?
Colin, we've had this argument before. I remember back when the Adani mine was a big issue, and there was the critics of the Adani development were saying, well, you know, we're going to destroy the barrier reef. And as we know, Adani and the Adani mine was so far away from the barrier reef, it wasn't funny. This site is 10K in from the coast, as I understand it. With your knowledge of the geography there, is it a reasonable argument to make that those freshwater creeks could end up polluting the ocean around the barrier reef with runoff?
Okay, so there is some reasonability to those arguments, and for me, I'm a great supporter of the coal sector in central Queensland particularly. We're the economic engine room of Australia. We're the people, the coal miners and all the mining and resource sector that pay the bills. We're the ones that provide the schools, the hospitals, the roads and all of those sorts of things. In respect to proximity of coal mines, that has to be taken into account. We've seen a coal mine proposal down near Bundaberg, for an example, which is on very high value agricultural land there. We've seen that vetoed, and I think that's a reasonable assessment in that particular case. In terms of Clive Palmer's proposal up near Stanwich Bay there, north of Rockhampton, I'm actually not very aware of the detail of that mine, but I could understand, the environmental protocols that need to be met.
Do we suspect that there might have been a bit of payback for Clive, given what Clive's done in terms of advertising against the Labor Party in various elections? Some of this could be personal, maybe?
Oh, look, this is what happens in politics, Steve, and at the end of the day, as I said, there is some legislation that's imminent down here in Canberra in respect to the safety net mechanism, and the current government needs the support of the Greens on this in the Senate to get their legislation through. I would, question the whole motives behind the environmental argument. Today in Parliament, I gave a speech in respect to the Great Artesian Basin and a proposal to change the environmental regulations in Queensland in respect to sequestering carbon dioxide into the Great Artesian Basin. And I'm vehemently against that. However, it remains to be seen whether it proceeds or not.
You're a federal MP, and so, unlike the state, you're a long way away from that mine, even though your electorate's near it. should the federal government be able to override those sort of mining applications as they have in this case, or should it be left to the state government? And we should point out the Queensland government had also opposed that mine. But say Queensland government had said, yep, okay, no problem. Should the federal government be able to override that decision?
I think the federal government, should have the power to veto on all sorts of things, and precedence has already been set in this space. Years ago, we saw the Environment Minister Peter Garrett put a stop to the Traviston Dam at Gympie, for an example, and that was all over turtles and fish, I believe.
So what happens with this mine now? I mean, is there any way for the Palmer Mining Company to appeal this decision, or is that it?
Well, I am not sure exactly of the protocols surrounding that. I would say that that's it. If the Federal Environment Minister has vetoed it under the EPBC Act, I would nearly say that that's the end of it. So that's the end of several hundred jobs in central Queensland. It is a bad signal to send to international investors in the mining and resource sector who are looking to the future. Some of the hypocrisy surrounding the whole coal argument is absolutely staggering. We are just about to renegotiate coal contracts with China. That is what pays the bills in Australia, yet we don't use any coal of our own. We're going to shut down all our coal-fired power stations. We're going to limit its availability, limit its use and limit its exploration. And that means the end of jobs for people in central Queensland.
Yeah, it just beggars belief. Colin Boyce from the seat of Flynn, thank you very much for joining us today.